Okie doke. Right, so to start the guide off quickly, so obviously in Colin McRae Rally 2 we have the championship mode, single rally, single stage, time trial and challenge in the rally. Arcade has championship, single race, time trial, all there. For the 80% run, it's a case of finishing the Novice Championship. So if you go on to Championship, then you click New Game, Novice. Obviously you can have up to 4 people, but for this we're going to stick with 1 just so it makes it the easiest. You can set up an account, profile, whichever people prefer. Obviously I've got my own, so I'm going to do that. And the car of choice to use, you can use pretty much any of the 6 stock cars, so it's going to be hard to show this, but the 6 stock cars that you can pick from are the Subaru Impreza, the Toyota Corolla, the Mitsubishi Lancer, that version, the one that you can see on screen, the Ford Focus, again, that one you can see on screen. There's several different versions of some cars, so this is why I'm saying this one, the originals. And then the other cars are the Seat Cordoba and the Peugeot 206. Now, with reason to believe, and the one that's the best is the Seat Cordoba. And I think the reason for that would probably be, in my eyes, I think it's because of the whole how light it is to drive. So it makes sense to why we use the Seat. I mean, the handling's it's not heavy, it's a light car, and it's got the horsepower as well when it goes down the straight. So, and I'd say out of a lot of the cars, it tops out at the highest speed. So it makes sense. Now, regarding transmission, for most people who are doing this game, or running this game for the very first time, that have never run it before, it's recommended that you run on automatic, just so you can get used to the game and get used to the shortcuts. However, if you're feeling quite confident, then maybe step it up to manual, as we believe manual is the fastest. So obviously for this case, I'm going to select manual on my end. And the first rally is obviously Finland. We've got the first 2 stages here, and as you can see we've got cloud, but this is like just to show off as well. One thing to mention, and Lucky can easily agree with me on this, is that, and maybe even Joseph, is that the weather can change a lot. So for the first stage you can get rain or sun or cloud, and you really don't know what you're going to get because the game randomizes it for you. So you might get through the whole game without having a single bit of rain or snow when we get to Sweden. But for Finland, it's ideal that you can either have cloud, that's fine. Preferably you want dry conditions, because wet conditions will mean you'll slide around more and so on and so on. For me personally, I don't make any adjustments to the car at the start, so all these settings that you can see right now, these are all the standard ones with nothing to change on the car. As far as I know, I don't change anything. I don't suppose you change anything on the car, do you, Lucky?
No.
Nope.
Nothing on Finland.
So for the most part, this will be where we start the actual main bit. Now obviously, again, I'm not going to run it really fast, so I'm not going to run it at full speed. Also, hello to everybody that's currently chat. So one thing to note straight away is that with manual gears you must, and I mean this with a serious bit of information, you must remember to change gear. So for the most part you're basically just following the stage and whatnot, just the usual stuff. Make sure to change down to 3rd or 4th gear there if you can. Now the first cut, again, I am going to slow down against the AI here so that you guys can see the cut. So the first one is between these 2 trees here, and you cut straight across the grass here, threading through those trees and back out onto the track. Nice short and simple shortcut. You won't believe how much time that actually saves, as little as it is. For the most part, you need to try and keep as much speed as you can around here. If you can't keep the speed, obviously the brakes are there for a reason, and obviously you're allowed to use the brakes. Don't feel afraid to not use the brakes. If you can, try and avoid them, but obviously if you're new, try not to. So second shortcut, this is where the big ones come in. And this is basically you cut straight across them trees there. Now if you can, or if you want to, you can cut in between these trees, but you don't have to. You can go around the right hand side if you wish. Now the route that I'm taking here is one that you could definitely use. especially at slow enough speed. But if you want to, there's actually another set of trees to the right hand side that you can use, and that would definitely come in useful. Again, for the most part, now we're just going to follow the rest of the track through as well. So, like I said, you know, for most of the stage, you're pretty much following the track, apart from the cuts that we've shown. Now, obviously, my time is going to be way off what our best time is, because again, I'm showing you guys all the cuts, and I'm going slow enough so you guys can see where it is. So, next one is come up on the right here, and it's alongside those trees there. So you've got the green tree on your left. Try and stick as close to the right as possible. And if you can, thread the needle here, right next to them trees. That allows you to jump most of that. Now when I go through there, it's worth noting, as I just carry on and do the rest of the stage, it is worth noting that for the most part, you can go straight across there, and if you go flat out in 6th gear, as you start to slow down, it's ideal that you go down to 5th gear. Now with automatic gears, you'll go down to 4th gear, I think, because the game changes down after a certain rev limiter. So it's like I said, it's easily faster if you use manual gears and automatic, because you can only change down one gear and still keep a bit more speed compared to manual. So the next one, so that's stage 2 done, stage 1 done, sorry. The ideal stage 1 time as well. So for the ones that are really quick, so like myself and Lucky, you're looking at like a 2:01 or 2:02 time for that stage, as in to, you know, start attempting like world record pace and things like that. So for most of, like, for that's like the professional time. The one that's like an ideal novice time would probably within the 2:20s. Granted, that's quite a bit slower than world record pace, but as an, you know, as a new player to the game and speed running, you ideally want to make sure you keep enough speed. So for most of this, we're going to just follow the track, and it has started raining, but again, you can get different weather on your run. Unfortunately, we're going to get rain, but it's no bother. It's no bother. The next cut coming up on our left hand side is between these trees here. Now, getting them right is quite difficult, so it is recommend you slow your brakes down. You know, use your brakes, slow the car down, and then when you think you've got a good enough gap, go for it. So, it's, I mean, if you can, try and take it over to the next one. Thanks a little bit, Speed Boost, I appreciate it. So, obviously, for the most part, you're mainly just trying to go around the corners. Just follow the track. You know, don't be trying. If you can, try and go flat out. But for the love of God, do not try and do it if you're not confident with a car and you're not one with a car. Don't try and do it. So for these corners, we try and stay at full speed if we can. So max out 6th gear, no brakes if you dare, and just try and progress around the corner. Now for here, it's probably worth recommending to change down to 3rd or 4th gear, as I nearly flipped the car. And also, we got some more bits. Thanks, Speed Booster. So, for the most part, we've got a couple of, you've got to change down a couple of gears. So, for the most part, you want to back off, go around to your right hand side, and obviously just follow the track around. Now, the next cut is right near the end here. You want to go to the left side of that there and go straight across here. Now, you can go behind these billboard things on your left hand side if you wish, but you don't have to. The chance is there if you want to do it. Now, that time there was a 2:22. My personal best is under 2 minutes. Now, that's if you're really going for it. If you're really going for the run, under 2 minutes. But as a new player, you know, a newbie, if you can try and get again around 2:15, around that mark, maybe under 2:15 if possible, then that's a pretty decent time, I'd say, for a new player, somebody who's never run this game before. It makes sense. Like I said, it's probably worth, if you wish, to practice the stages. Just practice them. It really is. The game's all about practice, because at the end of the day, if you're not practicing, the times won't come to you. They won't be that good. So obviously we had, as you saw, rain at the end. For the most part, Finland, for me, I don't change the tyres. I don't change the car setup a lot at all. If it rains, it's usually a reset. you ideally want to get a dry one. So this is the main thing I'm going to say about Finland. You mainly want to have dry weather the whole way through. Otherwise, if it's wet, your car will be sliding. As you saw, you'll be going off the track and you'll smash the car to pieces. The idea with this run is to, as I showed at the start, is to make sure that you don't wreck the car too bad, because the more you wreck the car, the worse it's going to get around corners. You're going to lose speed, you'll lose cornering performance, and obviously when you go off-road, you're going to lose suspension as well, the bounce of the suspension. So, stage 3, relatively straightforward. Again, for me personally, I don't repair the car, but you can, obviously at each service area, which is what they're there for, you can choose to repair the car if you wish. For me, I don't repair the car at all because I don't damage the car too bad. So for, in this case, say, alright, okay, I've took a bit of damage. That's not too bad. I can go on to the next stage, but if you took a lot more damage, repair the car. It's self-explanatory. Stage 3 is as fast as you dare, because it's a very quick stage. It's about 48 to 50 seconds, roughly. Oh, sorry, no, about 50, between 50 and 55 seconds. Now, ideally, a new time, or, a newcomer to the series, or new to speedrunning, an ideal time would be under a minute if you can. Anything above a minute, try and knock it down to under a minute. So what I'm saying is, you ideally should be getting under a minute. The AI, I think, on this do like a 110, so as long as you're beating like a 105, you'll easily beat the AI. So, for me, like I said, I'm not going to be going flat out pushing 100% because obviously I want to just show that without wrecking the car and everything like that, and making sure that you guys can see the cuts okay. So like I said, that run on its own was a 53-second time. That wasn't bad, and that was me being delicate. As you can see, the AI did a 1:14, and this is on Novice, so bear in mind, the AI, the times will never be the same, but they're usually around that mark, so like a 1:12, 1:13 mark. I've even had AI go as far as being like 1:15. But again, don't try and count on the fact that, okay, you've got it, it's there and you need to be as fast as the AI there. Which brings us nice on to stage 4. Now stage 4 has some cuts which are the opposite of stage 1. And for the start, we're going to just follow the track pretty much. We're not going to go any different to how we usually do. Now, the one thing I will note briefly is that when it comes up to this corner here, coming after the first split, the cut that's on that side is actually the same one we used in stage 1. However, for stage 4, we don't use that shortcut because it actually wastes time. So, like I said, because of this, we don't want to waste time going across the going off-road and things like that, because that'll lose us speed. And I actually have used that shortcut once or twice just to see if it does make a difference. And it doesn't. So, like I said, that's, for the most part, that's like the first half the stage. Just give me 1 second. Sorry, a bit of noise in the background, get rid of that. So, anyway, like I was saying, for the most part, now this is where the shortcuts get interesting. Now, at the end, on stage 1 I said there was a big shortcut where you cut around some trees. It's this tree here that you want to make sure you don't hit. So I'm going to take a slow route around these trees, and this is the one that we usually do. Now for us, we go sliding into that corner at full speed, so it's ideal that you want to try and slow it down. And again with this one, you want to go alongside the trees. Make sure you're not going too far to the left on that shortcut because you can hit the tree. There literally is no other way. If you go too far to the left, you'll be in the trees. Too far to the right, you'll hit a tree. There is plenty of space really, so it's all just about, like I said, again, for the most part, a game like this is all about the practice. So if you do wish to use any of these cuts that I show off today, or ones that I tell you about, feel free to do so. Now the next shortcut is here. You're basically beelining the corner. If you can, try and thread it through these. Now you think, well, why aren't you going back on the track and I'm staying to the right hand side? It's because you can actually get back on to the track there. And instead of going left, you go straight between the middle of these trees. It's literally as simple as that. Now, make sure you put your brakes on way before you get to there because the grass is slippery. And then from there, it's literally a straight shot to the finish. Now, an ideal time on that stage for a newbie probably would be about under 2:20 if possible. And then the best time is about a 2:04, 2:03, 2:04 I'd say, for stage 4. Which brings us nicely on to the end of Finland. Finland, like I said, it's a very quick rally and ideally for the overall time. So if I just quickly show what my overall time was, that's a 7:52. Now, if you can try and get a bit quicker than that, so under 7:50 as your Finland time, that's an ideal start basically to Finland, really. Because otherwise, like I said, you won't be any slower than that, and I mean you're not going to lose against the AI. I mean we've beaten by nearly 3 minutes there, so ideally, I'll tell you what, actually, rather than say 7:50, say under 8 minutes. Anything under 8 minutes is good for a newbie, I'd say. If you can get under 8 minutes, great. The best runners like myself and Lucky have got under 7. So again, with those cuts, and again we're at full speed. Again, practice makes perfect, so there's no doubt about it, you won't get anywhere unless you practice. It makes sense. I mean, it's what speedruns are all about, isn't it? So again, we've done that, which brings us on to the next rally. Now this is where the strategy changes for myself, because for me, I do not change the car setup. However, I believe Lucky does, which is hence why he's here.
Yes, I do.
And you just changed the gearbox a tad down, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, with each one of these, actually, I didn't mention this before, but with car setup, you can see that it's flashing in the middle at the moment, and it goes 2 to the right or 2 to the left. Now, that's it on default by that. All the cars are on the middle. Pretty much whenever you start a new rally, all of them little blocks are in the middle. Now, again, just to change the gearbox, you actually click the X button or A button or whatever it is on your controller or keyboard, whatever you prefer to use. You then go left 1, and it's that one there. So we've now shortened our gearbox. The reason being for this is because, believe it or not, in Greece, you can't actually get full speed in the car on many of the stages at all. Like, there's rarely a time where you'll get to full speed. Now, again, all credit due to Lucky, who's with me on this one, for finding this out, because really, I didn't think it made a difference, personally. But after you testing it, Lucky, I think you found there was quite a bit of difference, didn't you?
Yes, it saves roughly around 5 and 6 seconds.
Which
in overall Greece.
Which is a lot, really. Again, now depending on the gearing that you use, you'll either find, if you're used to manual gears, you'll find changing gears a bit of a pain because you really do change gears a lot. There's a rally further down the line that's even harder with the gear changing, but we'll get to that later on. So with Greece, again, you shorten the gearbox. You don't change tyres, no change of tyres, no changes of suspension, or the power ratio, the brake bias, the rest of it. Only the gearbox you go back 1. Now, for pretty much, I think every time I play Greece, it's never been known to rain. It's always cloudy or dry. So as you can see on the left-hand side there, you've got bright, dry, or cloudy. The worst it's ever got for me is cloudy. You never get rain or the drizzle. You never get any of that on Greece because, well, Greece is a warm country, isn't it? So, for the most part, anyway. So let's get on with stage 1. So, stage 1 in Greece. Quite a few twists and turns, and for the most part, as you can see, you go up through the gears very, very quickly. There isn't many cuts in stage 1. However, for the most part, again, as we keep saying, practice definitely makes perfect for this one. So for the most part, as you can see, I'm just following the track. Our first little cut is actually coming up. Now, on the left-hand side, so not here, you cut through here, this is how the track goes. However, on my left-hand side, now, you'll see that there are some trees here. If you cut behind these trees here, and go through those there, you're basically beelining the right corner to go left. And that basically allows for you to gain like about half a second, I think, to a second roughly. Which is really good, because that's what we want ideally. The next little cut here is to the left, right against the scenery. So you go left here. Now if you're quick enough you can actually cut past that tree. But I actually go round the right hand side. Ideally you want to be going around the left hand side. It's quite hard to do it at fast speed, so if you wish, again, brakes are recommended. Slow the car down, thread it through, nice and easy. Again, you don't have to drive at a granny pace like I do. A little minor cut that I always do, which is just cutting across the grass. Lucky, I'm sure, does it as well. That's only minor. It barely saves any time whatsoever. So obviously going into sector, I think it's sector 5 now, just at the end of sector 4. There is a cut straight away on our right hand side. So we passed the checkpoint for sector 4, and on the right hand side here you'll see that the hillside goes up. Where these trees are, you want to aim straight, and then it helps you get back on the track. What that's doing is basically you're cutting out a chicane. Now, again, thanks to Lucky on this one, Lucky actually found this out, and it saves, I think, 2 seconds roughly?
Around 2 seconds, yes.
Again, another little minor cut, go alongside the rock face, cut past the tree on the left hand side, very nice and easy. And then, if you want to do this, this is optional if you want, but I always cut across this grass bit here, so it allows you to flow into this next corner very nice and easy. Again, the rest of the stage is mainly just taking it easy, try not to take too much speed through the corners. Ideally, I mean, for us, I use, like I said, I'm using 5th gear right now. I brake quite a bit and then change down a few gears whilst I brake. So obviously I changed down to 3rd there. Cut a bit of speed off going into this last few corners, and then obviously the hairpin, I usually drop it down into 2nd gear, roughly. And you ideally want to try and get the car to slide into the corner. Now, my time there was a 3:03.95. Ideally, you want to try and get anything that's under 3:05 would be good. A good time to aim for new players. The professionals like myself and Lucky are aiming at around the 240-ish, late 240s. So 248, 249 / early 250s. So anything between, I'd say, 248 and around 253 would be good enough to be like really good pace. On that behalf. Again, we beat the AI by like 35 seconds, so the AI is ridiculously easy, although it will get a bit more challenging later on. Stage 2 of Greece is a bit more of an interesting cut. So straight from the start, we're going to be using a couple of shortcuts. Now, again, we're following the track for the most part here, but after we get past this tree, we actually cut off to the left hand side up here, and it's really difficult to pull this off, but if you can pull it off with speed, it's really good. For me, I always feel nervous about doing it, so you want to try and thread your car through the trees, and on the left hand side you cut through here, past these trees here, and that allows you to cut off a bit of the corner here. You can do like little minor cuts like I'm doing here, and just make the stage like a little bit shorter and a little bit more faster. Now after this left hand corner here, you go right off the track alongside this little tree, and then try and thread the gap between the banner and that tree. Basically the game allows it, you can do whatever you wish there, you can just go flying straight through. For myself and Lucky, we plough through there in like 5th or 6th gear, so yeah, we go through quite quick. Now the next little shortcut is a bit of a tricky one, but rather simple. So you go straight here past these trees and you think, oh no, you're going to go through some bushes. Be careful about the bushes. We're basically beelining these corners here, and that basically allows us to get in position for the end of sector 4 there. So you ideally want to just beeline it. You have to watch out for the trees, so it is recommended that if you're trying these shortcuts for the very first time, to put the brakes on after you go through the bushes and then practice going through that shortcut, just so that when you're doing a run you don't go ploughing through at daft speed, or you lose loads of speed because you hit a tree by accident that you didn't have enough time to react to, sort of thing. So for the most part we're mainly going to be following the rest of this stage. So I'm just going to carry on driving and just do the rest of the stage as it should normally done, which is sticking to the track. There is like little minor cuts here and there that you can do. For the most part, I don't think there's any major ones until like near the end. So as you can see here, we have these rocks on the right hand side. Be careful you don't go out onto the outside and hit those. And you can also, if you wish, to cut near this tree, cut the corner. You don't have to do it, it's just there if you wish. So this is where the cut gets interesting. So after you go out this right hand turn here, I always run wide and go behind this banner. Now you can choose to go out and behind. The main shortcut though is going between where that where them two banners are. That's ideally what you want to be doing, cutting through. And then from there you literally just pile it all the way home. You literally just follow the course and then you get home. And then that's it. Stage 2 is now done. Now that was a 244. Now for me, as a first time player, I'd say anything under 250 would be an idea. Anything sub 250 or around the 250 mark, early 250s. So I'd say anything between like 250 to 252 would be an ideal time to aim for a new player. If you can't get close to that, maybe just do a bit more practice to get used to it. And if you don't feel comfortable by using shortcuts, feel free to do all the stages without the shortcuts. Granted, it will take a lot longer, especially some of the later stages, but it's completely optional. If you feel more comfortable driving the stages normally without the cuts, feel free to do so, because I did on my first try. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know about any of these shortcuts when I first ran the game. All I knew was just the stage design and things like that, so I never used the shortcuts. But because I played the game and speedrun it that much, I done a lot of practice on the shortcuts. It's mainly added up to one of the best runs that I've ever done personally for speedrunning, and I still hold it now as one of my best. But anyway, moving on. So again, stage 2, between 250 and 252, that's your ideal first stage. Again, you can see on total rally time we're miles ahead of the competition. Stage 3 and 4. Stage 3 is an interesting one. Again, don't need to change any of the settings on the car. The car's still set up. You don't need to change the gearbox. And this is a good time to mention this. So, for the gearbox, when you set it, it stays like that. It never changes. It carries on. So, unless you decide, right, I'm going to change the gearbox to long, the gearbox will still be short. It will never it doesn't reset to the middle. The only time it resets to the middle is, like I said before, it only resets to the middle. So as in, by default, the default settings for the car, when you start a new rally. So for this, obviously, we're going to keep it as is. We're not going to change anything. We don't need to change the tyres, the suspension, nothing. If you want to, again, feel free to repair the car if you wish, but because we haven't got much damage, I'm not going to repair it. Which leads us nicely into stage 3. And stage 3 actually has one of, I'd say, a massive cut. It's probably the biggest cut of Greece. So for the most part, you are just following the stage, plain and simple. Just got to do the stage as it is. Again, probably worth practicing the stages if I was you, especially if you're new to it. Now the next cut is involving going off at this corner here, through these trees, and aiming for this hillside here. And what this actually allows you to do is the car respawns. And actually what that's done now is that's actually saved about, I think, 3 or 4 seconds for this stage time, believe it or not. And we're going to save more, because there's another one. As you go around this right hand corner here, aim for that tree on the left hand side, but don't go too far to the left, because what can happen there is, as you're cutting up the hill, you've also got the chance of the tree and obviously the fence. That you'll notice as well, the fences are very thin. They're practically invisible. And I can't tell you how many times I've actually hit that fence. Recently when we did a CMR 2 race, I actually hit said fence and it wasn't very nice. Again, just a minor cut at the end here. I'm going to go straight over here. It's up to you how much you want to take of that, and across the line like that. Now, my best time on here is like a 1:11 I think, and Lucky's is about a 1:10 or 1:11 I think. Ideally for new players, new timers, fresh faces, whatever you want to call them, those are mainly going to be using if you're using these shortcuts, you're ideal looking at like a 120 something maybe, but without shortcuts like a 125 or something like that. So ideally it helps if you know the shortcuts. As you can see, it throws us off quite a fair bit, but you beat the AI by quite a fair mile anyway. Again, without using any of these shortcuts, I think you can easily beat the AI. If you know these shortcuts, then you literally can get away with it. It's unbelievable how broke this game is, hence the reason why this any percent guide is being created. So there's actually a shortcut on this stage, stage 4. Now, I believe Lucky knows this one. I don't, but I believe Lucky does. So, Lucky, would you be able to explain this one for the audience, please? If you could. I think it's on stage 3. Not stage 3, split 3. If I remember rightly. So you go through here, as you do. You got there's your stage, second split. Now, ideally, what we want to be looking for here, I believe, it's to go off the course here. So you go left, and instead of going over, you actually go over here, like this. And that actually allows you to jump a fair bit, if you wish. I believe you can actually jump a bit more than that, than what you've got. But, again, don't ask me why. Like you can choose to respawn if you wish, on that time, if you wish. Again, a few minor cuts. You can cut the inside of these corners, go over the tops, over the sides. It doesn't really matter. The game doesn't actually penalise you for any of this. For the most part, you kind of want to cut corners any way you can. So, like here, for example, you can do that. You can just go around and, you can. I mean, for the most part, I tend to follow this stage mostly and barely do any corner cuts or anything like that. There is one which I didn't mention at the start, which is you can cut between some trees, but it's a very, very small time save. It's not really. It's a bit risky, but if you can nail it, it will save you about half a second, I'd say, if that, like just short of half a second. Speaking of which, we have the next rally coming up is France, and France, putting it blatantly, does not have many shortcuts. It's mainly about how fast you can get through stages. You don't want to be going really fast around some corners, so I'll mention this again when we get to France. But the next rally is France, so there's that. Regarding the rest of this stage, you'll have noticed I've not took any shortcuts or cut across any of the stage. I've literally just followed the rest of it. I've not gone stupid and cut a load of corners or anything like that. I've literally just took it easy. And across the line we go to do a 2:46. Now, for me, I'd say a 2:55 is a novice time to aim for. Anything that's under 2:55 is ideal. If you can get around a 2:42 or a 2:43, that's matching the times of what me and Lucky have done. I think Lucky's gone reasonably quicker than that though. But for the most part, under like a 2:55 is ideal. That's what you want to be aiming for. As before we end France, we've got one more stage. Now, I'll put it blatantly. Stage 5, aka the super special stage, it's one-on-one. It's you versus whoever's in second place, which for me is usually Colin McRae. Sometimes it can be Backer or Dugas. It all depends whoever's second in the rally, I believe. That's who you usually go up against. There is no cuts in this one. This is all about how you drive and how you get through corners. Also, just a quick side note, every super special stage you create, if you're playing this game on a new profile, every super special stage you finish will unlock in the challenge mode. Now, I'll save that for another time, but challenge mode is basically you do this and you can select how many times you want to do it. You can have like a knockout tournament, but there's, I believe, 5 tracks for challenge, and this is one of the first ones that you unlock in the game. The original one that comes with the game originally unlocked is Japan, which doesn't have a rally in the game. It's just there by default. Greece is obviously the first one that is the one that you actually participate in, and the first one that you unlock. Again, don't change any gearbox or anything like that. Now this brings me nicely onto it as I get it started. This brings me, while I'm driving about, this brings me onto it nicely, which is, if you're on automatic gears with these super special times, you guys are going to have a super easy time. But I must warn everybody that plays on manual gears. So, for some strange reason, and this is well known for everybody that runs CMR2, I believe, is that there is a weird bug. And it's only apparent on super special stages. You don't get it anywhere else, it's only on the super special stages. So the bug is that, for example, you'll be trying to change upper gear, but the key won't, the button that you press for changing upper gear will not register. Now, when I originally found out about this, I thought it was just my controller playing up. I thought, oh, maybe there's something wrong with the pad, or maybe, I need to buy a new controller. I tried it on the keyboard to see if it made a difference, to see if it was more responsive. Turns out keyboard has the exact same problem. So bear in mind, if you are going to play this game on manual, you are a bit of a disadvantage, unfortunately. For the most part, anyway. And coming around the last few corners, as you can see, it's going to be a 118 from me. Now I can do it in a 116 with some much better driving, but the ideal time you want to be aiming for, I'd say, is an under 130. Under 130 is ideal. I mean, the AI does it in obviously like early to mid 140, so between like 142 to 145 roughly. And as you can see, in the end we beat the AI by nearly 3.5 minutes. And that was that was me going at full speed or anything. Ideally, your grease rally time should be under 12 minutes if you can get it under that. If you can. If not, under 13 is usually a good idea as well. Anything above that probably would be worth doing a bit of practice. This is to put in like a decent time for a newbie. For someone like me who's played the game quite a bit, and lucky as well, who's run the game and gone very quick, our best times, I think his is like a 10:36 or something like that, and mine's like a 10:45 or something like that. So if you get it around the 10:40 something mark, then that's considered a really good time, and you're up there with the pros, if I can, quote unquote, the pros. So that's Greece. That's the second rally done and dusted, and on to the next rally, which is France. Now you'll notice I skipped the intro video. That's just to save on time. For the most part, I've never had rain in France, believe it or not. It's either always been sunny or dry like it is here. And again, there isn't many places, I believe, in terms of how you can do the shortcuts in this. There's barely any shortcuts in France, is what I'm saying. Regarding gearbox, it's completely up to you. Now, again, for me, I don't change my gearbox, everything's default. However, I believe Lucky uses a shorter gearbox. Again, another rally where you use that shorter gearbox. You'll see us a couple of times in this run as well. So he changes it down to that. Again, I keep it by default. But for this purpose, I'm going to be using his gearbox setup just to show you, about, again, there's not a lot of places where you can top out at full speed here, so this ideally makes things better, and you'll be doing a lot of gear changing on this rally. Not nearly as much as another one down the line, but this one you will definitely be doing quite a bit at. Obviously they won't need to repair it, and then get into stage 1. So stage 1 in this is reasonably tricky. You can go off the side of the track and things like that. Now for the most part, you ideally want to try and be as quick as possible. The car has quite a bit of grip to hand. However, you'll notice that I do change down a gear every now and again. I do go through corners very quick, and the car has a tendency to understeer sometimes around corners. Now, for me, this is me going flat out in 6th gear. Now, for somebody who's new to this, again, brakes are your friend. Don't be afraid to use them. Feel free to use them at every opportunity if you wish. So, as you can see here, I'm using my brakes. Usually I don't use my brakes, I bounce off the wall, like hit the back end of the car, and that allows me to keep some momentum coming out of the corner. Again, most of this I keep flat out in 6th gear. Now there's only one cut that I really take here, and that is after this split here. You cut straight across the grass here and back onto the tarmac. Again, to this hairpin you want to slow down quite a bit before, because I braked really late there and I've ended up smashing the car into the metal barriers, and what's happened is obviously the car's flipped, it's had gearbox damage, engine damage, and that's it. You start, the downhill struggle starts from there. Now these corners can be very tight, so like I said, highly recommend using your brakes at corners like this. This one's most of the corners in France are quite blind, so it's probably worth doing a bit of practice. Again, don't run wide there. I know this is me going at a bit more of a quicker speed, but ideally you want to be going at, if you can, keep it 3rd or 4th gear. If you're struggling with cornering speed, apart from the hairpins obviously, maybe drop it down to 5th or even 4th gear, because then you won't be going as much speed. Again, remember the car doesn't have unlimited grip, so you will need to slot the car down. And be easy on the brakes as well, because if you slam the brakes on, as you can see, the car does slide, so you need to make sure you don't, you need to try and work out like an ideal braking distance before the corner, roughly. Again, for the rest of this, you basically just follow the stage all the way around. For the most part, for France, you are mainly, showing no emotion, you're keeping it as quick as you can. It is recommended that you brake after the bridge, just in case, so you don't smash into the barriers. And then across the line, around the corner and across the line. And that was a 2:36. Now, the AI did a 3-minute. If you can get under 3 minutes, you're getting there. So, beginner's time for that stage, I'd say, is 250. Around 250. Or 250 to 255, roughly. That's my recommended time. Moving on to stage 2. Stage 2 is a bit quicker, but it's much more difficult. So there's a lot of hairpins and a lot of sharp corners, more notably at the start here. So you'll notice we have a sharp square right and a square left. There's one that is a bit here as well, and you want to brake for this right-hander mainly because of the fact that if you don't, you'll obviously go off, you smash the car up. There's a hairpin here, of course, brake way in advance so you don't smash the car up. This corner can be very off-putting because it seems like it goes on forever. I'd recommend probably putting your brakes, and if you're going to use gearing to slow your car down, ideal gearing would probably be 2nd or 3rd gear. If you want to, feel free to use your brakes again around these corners because they're not very nice for your car. Your handling wise, try to do these very quick like I do and like Lucky does, is hard to pull off unless you get used to the game and the physics of it, of course. So for the most part, like I said, be steady with your acceleration, be good with your brakes, don't smash the car up. So for here, for example, I slow down quite a fair bit. Try not to accelerate mid-corner if possible, because if you do, it can cause the back end to slide out like that. And that actually means that you can, you'll run wide, you can smash your car into a chain, into the metal fence, and that's that really, that's the end of your race, because cars are quite sensitive. Unlike the first game, the cars are very sensitive in their damage model, the damage physics, they're not very forgiving. So you can get away with a few little nudges like that if you wish. Again, I'm going to try not to. There is quite a few hairpins and sharp corners in France, as I said. Not nearly as Italy, which is a rally we'll get onto later on. But for the most part, you want to be careful here because this can catch you off quite a bit, as there's a hairpin literally waiting for you. Again, try and be easy with the acceleration in that corner and probably just drop it down to 2nd gear. So again, another sharp left-hand corner, try and be careful, and again, ideally you see how I'm dropping them down gears. This one is a pain by a long shot. So that one I slow down quite a fair bit. I always treat that as a hairpin, so slide down to 2nd or 1st gear even, just so you definitely get around the car out smashing up. And then with a hairpin here, mostly, like I said, I'm barely, you notice how I'm letting off the acceleration and using my brakes. So change down 2 gears there, let off the acceleration for that corner. Again, let off the acceleration and maybe change down a gear around here and across the line. And that was a 2:45. If you can get anything under 3 minutes, then that's a pretty decent start. But anything that's under 2:50 like that one was, is probably a really good time, I'd say. And if you're really going for gold, a 2:22 or a 2:23. So, like I said, ideally it gives you quite a bit of time to, a bit of things to get used to and all that good stuff. And stages 3 and 4, there's not a lot to them. Again, we've got a slight bit of damage. Your brake's usually the one that takes the pounding the most. However, if you smash into one of the metal fences, the metal gates around the side of stages, you can easily wreck your gearbox, the turbo, and obviously the body as well. Now for me, ideally, when it comes to repairing the car, you ideally want to repairing the gearbox and the turbo first. And if the rally's quite harsh on brakes, like France and Italy is, because they're tarmac rallies, you want to repair the brakes, because brakes are your friend. If they're wrecked and you'll go around a corner, say goodbye to that corner, because you're going straight in the trees, mate. You're gone. It's as simple as that. You're just completely out of it, you're gone. Now, again, body damage, it says it affects aerodynamics. Personally, I think it doesn't really matter too much. If it really gets repaired, so if you see that start to go into the blue and it becomes orange on here, then definitely consider repairing it. But for the most part, if it's yellow, don't repair it. It's not worth repairing, it's just wasting time. Now, if you can get through stages as cleanly as possible, without damaging the car too much, you don't even need to repair the car, even with like little damage like that. See, for me, I can brush that off. I can personally carry on with that damage, because that damage isn't that much to me. So stage 3, again, for the most part, all about concentration on this one. There is a tight corner on the first corner here, and it seems like a very long left-hand corner for some weird reason. Believe it, I have no idea why. You want to slow down to either second or third gear there. Watch the trees on this corner before the first split, and obviously slow it down second gear because it is a hairpin. And again here as well, you ideally want to slow down. Try not to hit the rock out face or the brick wall on the inside, because if you do that, it's not going to do very well. As I get a host from Neko, thank you very much. I do apologise for that. So, as you can see, we've now got, for the most part, as you saw, I've been taking it nice and easy. This part is very, very tricky, so if possible, don't go really fast through that. It's recommended that, I'm not saying you should go really slow, but probably second or third gear for most of it should work as well. As we get another host. Thank you very much. I presume people want to see the challenge vlog, so. Anyway, moving on. So for the most part, into this next sector, we've got a lot of rock faces and stone walls, and obviously you don't want to be going too much into the brick wall or the stone cliffs on the outside, or the metal walls on the metal barriers on the outside of the corners. So your brakes are needed quite a bit through here, because these corners are very, very tight. Try and stick as close as you can to the right hand side, as we get another host. I do apologise for all these hosts, but I appreciate them nonetheless. So this corner here is very tricky. Ideally, second to third gear is ideal. That's what you want to be doing, mainly because of the fact that if you go too fast, you'll be going like that and the car will start tail fishing. You don't want to be doing that. Try not to swerve too far out to the right hand side against those the barriers on the outside. There's no way we're going to cut for the rest of this stage, but just to give a few tips, that there is corners that can be tricky, like that one for example, because there's an immediate right turn. We've obviously got a square right here. This corner here, these two corners can be tricky, so probably slow down to third gear or second gear if you don't feel confident. You'll be doing this quite a bit. So if you're using manual gears, you will be changing it down a few gears. And obviously you want to be making sure that your speed isn't too great. Otherwise, if your speed's too great, you'll be going all over the place, smashing the car, and even rolling it, as I nearly did there. For the most part, you want to be making sure that you're going past all of these. You can actually go straight as well. There's nothing wrong with not going straight or anything like that. And then across here and across the line, like that, as shown here. And that was a 3:07. Now, like I said, my best time is like a 3:03, which is really good. It's really nice. But an ideal first time would probably be a bit quicker than that, so under 3-minute time, preferably. The AI do like 3:33, so you've no problem about beating AI. It's just if you want to get a decent time on the stage, anything under 3 minutes I'd say is good enough for a first time runner. Obviously with time as you practice you'll get better and do better and stuff like that. Which brings us nicely onto stage 4. Now stage 4 originally for me felt like stage 1 but in reverse, but it isn't. So we've now got a couple of bad corners coming up already, such as these left and right corners here. Now, for most racers, obviously you'll probably be able to get used to these. You ideally don't want to be running off onto the grass, because the grass will obviously cost you time, the car will skid, and that's speed lost and obviously time lost. So if you can keep it on the tarmac as best as you can, that's the ideal situation you want to be in. Now, obviously I've done quite a bit of practice at keeping the car on the road, so there's no worry on that one. Again, as mentioned, there is no shortcuts in this stage, so I won't be cutting any corners or anything like that. You want to be taking it easy going around these few corners, because as you go around this next left-hander, your car can actually run wide into the bushes on the grass, and you've also got here as well. So as you can see, the car run a bit wide there. Try to take too much speed through there, unless you've got the guts and you want to do it. Feel free to. Again, this guide is for newbies who are wanting to looking to speedrun it. Try not to take too much speed through this stage, especially through these corners. This one you can kind of open the car up a bit. Going into the next set of corners though, you'll notice we've got quite a few sharp corners, and this is where your gearbox comes in useful now. Because through there, as you saw, I changed down into second gear. And that means that changing down to second gear, so we've got less speed, we've got more time to think, and we can get through the corners nice and easy. Like I said, you want to try and slow down as well here before that sign, because you can run wide. It's very easy to run wide onto the sign, and that's that. You smash into the sign, the car can either flip or it can gain a lot of damage. So be careful. Again, with the hairpin braking distances, that's what matters here. Be careful with your braking distances. Try not to smash the car into the metal barriers. And then as we go around this next corner, I usually cut across here. So you can do like this little minor cut, which saves mainly half a second, I think. There's not too much other than that to mention for fronts. You can take you can take the corner flat out if you wish. You can go all the way around the corner. You'll notice these corners that are coming up are very tight, they're very risky. Again, same as the first part of the stage. You can run wide, you can run into the grass, and obviously you've got the stone wall as well. Now, the next sector, this sector is just like the previous one, except it's a bit faster. If you can, try and change down a few gears and brake for this corner, as well as changing down a few gears. And that was a 3-minute time, which isn't too bad. It's quite nice. Ideally, under 3 minutes would be a good time to get for this stage, which actually brings us nicely to the end of France. That is the end of the French rally. With 2 minutes in front of the AI there, so the AI are a bit more tricky on France, you'll find. Again, it's all about the practice. France is one of those rallies where there's no shortcuts, it's all about the speed and how quick you can finish the stages. That's what ideally that's what you're looking for. You're looking for speed and consistent driving all the way through this run. So again, and obviously again, preservation of your car's damage is the main one to remember as well. So keeping your speed going around the corners, making sure the car doesn't slide out, go wide, run into obstacles like trees, the stone walls on the inside of the track, the metal rails and things like that. And obviously try not to hit anything head on, because that will again damage your car. You'll lose loads of speed, and you'll also have a gearbox that's constantly going into neutral, but it changes up a gear, and obviously that'll lose you a lot of time as well. So again, preservation of car damage is the key for this run by a long shot. Speed and preservation of car damage is definitely the main keys for this run. As you can see, we've won the gold trophy. That makes it 3 runs in a row, and we move nicely on to Rally 4, which is Sweden. Now, Sweden, an interesting rally, because now we have a completely different surface to run on. Snow and ice. Now, stage 1 for Sweden has a minor cut. And it's mainly at the end of the stage. Now, for me personally, I don't change the gearbox, I leave it as is. I do believe Lucky changes the gearbox though. Now this is again personal preference if you want to change the gearbox or not. For me, I can get up to top speed in this car with the default gearbox. However, it's rare that I can kind of do it on stages. It does help in the long run, because the faster you go in a straight line, obviously, the more time you're gaining on the stage and ahead of the AI. For this one, obviously, I'm going to put it down a notch. For this rally, this is, I believe this is the one that Lucky uses. I'm not quite sure, but that's the ideal one. So, jumping into Sweden, stage 1, we do have snow. It is possible to get cloudy or even sunny weather for Sweden. So the one thing you've got to remember is, because it's Sweden, the car's going to slide out more, like a lot more. You'll constantly be stuck in different gears, most notably first gear or second gear, as I was there. On manual, obviously you've got the timing of adjusting of when to change up a gear. Again, you ideally want to brake as early as you can, because obviously braking distances are like times 10, I believe, in the snow. And also, one thing you want to watch out for, and this is a major flaw which is in this game, is the snowbanks. You want to stay well away from them, because the snowbanks will drain your speed like no tomorrow. So for example, if I just show you what I mean, so it's like, oh dear, I've run wide. You see how much the car slows down. Now for me, I don't think hitting the snowbanks is useful. There's rarely a time where it actually comes in useful. As you can see, I'm braking fairly early before the corner, easing the car in, try not to let the car drift out wide, catch the car when I can, and obviously, if need to, change the car up a gear to stop the wheels from spinning too much, and to gain grip. Like I said, for the most part, we've obviously got the hairpin here, which again, for most of the stage, you're basically just riding it out, trying not to run into, try not to run into anything. Don't run into any of these big lamppost things on the, the light things there. And also be careful for that car spinning out, because it can happen. Barriers, believe it or not, can kind of be your friend, but we'll get onto that a bit later on. So as you can see, we're over halfway through the stage now, and for the most part, we've not done any shortcuts, we've not cut the track anywhere, we've literally just been following the stage. Now, the main cut, which is coming up very shortly, is actually in Sector 7. So, the way I do it is, Sector 1 is the first green bar, Sector 2 is the second one. So currently we're in the process of completing Sector 7. As you go around this right hand corner, you'll notice in front of the track goes over this bump here. And if you aim for between these two trees here, watch the car, because it can go right to the left hand side. You want to cut between these trees. You can cut further along to the trees further over if you wish, but ideally those are the trees that you probably want to cut through at the moment. We've not really seen if there's any much of a speed difference really for this stage, if cutting through the ones to the right make much of a difference. For now, this is the route that the road to take with all the cuts in. As you can see, I got a 2:55 on that stage, and ideally, my usual times are like a 2:45, 2:46, roughly around that time. For a new player though, anything under 3 minute 10 is good, in my eyes. If you never played this game before and you get under 3 minute 10, that's a good start, that's a good sign. Sweden Stage 2 is where I believe one of the major cuts in this game actually comes in, and I'll show this off. It's going to be hard to explain. So on this stage there is a patch of ice, and it takes quite a bit. However, with the cuts that I'm about to show you, we're going to save quite a bit of time, and believe me, they do save quite a bit of time. So for the most part, we're going to be following the stage, as you can see, just changing down gears when and where I need it. Applying the brakes. Applying the brakes when and where I need them. And obviously making sure to catch the car and not let it slide. This left-hand corner here can make you slide out onto the silver guardrail on the outside of the course. And you ideally don't want to be doing that. Again, as I destroy the car, you don't want to be wrecking the car too much. So this is the ice section in section 2. Now, where this corner says you go right, you don't do that, you go straight. Now, at this point, your game is going to try and change down gear. And what we want to be doing is getting this car to flip. So you want to be going up this cliff here. And after a bit, what should happen, if I can get it to happen, is your car should flip. Now again, if you don't get it, don't worry. You can reverse and go back into gear. Just reverse out and go back in. It does require a few attempts. Now in the world record attempt, I managed to get it first try. But it is possible to flip your car over if you want to. Like that. And then once the car flips over, let it reset. It'll spawn you back onto the ice here. You want to go across the grass over here and stick close to this cliff here. Where the thing goes in there, where the fence goes in, you want to aim for that gap, and then it'll reset you back on the ice. Now that's actually, what that's done is actually saved us a fair bit. You follow the ice round here. Now you can either follow the track round like that, or you can do this cut which I do, which is goes across here. And I also aim a bit to the left here, so as if I've completed that there. And we go back onto the snow again. Nice and easy, back onto the snow. And that is the big cut in stage 2. So there's 2 cuts, so you have to flip the car twice. You go across the ice, up to the snowbank, flip the car, and then flip it again, and that's the cut's done. Now again, in a run you ideally want to try and get this first try, and it can actually kill a run. It's a bit of a run killer. If you're not confident with it, you don't have to try it, but it does save you in the region of 30 seconds if you get it right. So, with the shortcuts, I'd say your ideal time would be under a 3:10. With shortcuts, under 3:10. But without shortcuts, without using it, try and get under a 3:40, if possible. Either 3:40 or, well, either 3:40 or 3:45. So as you saw, I screwed up the first cut and I still got a 3:09. Ideally, like if you want to try and get around that time, you know, under a 3:10, that's a good sign for this. A good sign for it. Again, the faster you go and the quicker you get at the rally, the better. You know, the more you practice the cuts, the better you get. Pardon me. Which brings us nicely on to stages 3 and 4. Now, stage 3, as you can see, we've got a shower of snow and also just pure snow. It does make a difference having snow on the stages, because what happens is, obviously, you've got the whole, you know, you've got the whole snow there, it's all there, stuff that you don't want. It's Sweden, so you're gonna get it. What you're gonna do. But snow doesn't really help, because what can happen is, due to the limits of, if I can say the limits of the snow, what happens is the snow obviously applies an extra layer and makes steering even harder, so it can actually cause your car to start, not spin out, but it can cause your car to slide out wide. Whereas if it's like dry, so if it's cloudy or if it's sunny, you're fine. It's also worth noting that stage 4 is set practically at night, so just be careful. So if you wish at this point, you can repair the car. For purposes of this one, I will repair the car. I don't usually repair the car, I'm just saying, it's an idea worth repairing the car, because bear in mind, you flip the car twice. You just flip the car twice in that last stage, so obviously you're gonna take damage and you're gonna need to repair it, so it makes sense. Again, if you don't want to do that, that's completely fine. If you want to take it on without doing it, you don't have to repair it. So for the most part for stage 3, you're mainly just trying to complete this as fast as possible. Again, try not to go too wide on the corners or anything like that. You're literally just going as fast as you can through the stage. The first split will probably show red for a lot of people, because the AI for some weird reason is very difficult to beat on this stage at the start. Whereas as you go through the stage, you can easily beat it by a couple of seconds, I'd say. Again, there's no cuts, so you're gonna get stuck with the AI and things like that. The AI will be a couple of seconds behind. Again, this all depends on how much you play the game and how much you practice, but I won't emphasise this enough. Practice, practice, practice. Before you do a run, practice these as many times as you need to, because I do, right? That's what I did. I practiced these cuts until I was pretty sure I could get them right, and then do a run. Granted, don't forget this. Sometimes your run might not be good the first time. Maybe you need a couple of resets to get it right. Obviously, in like a race or something like that, obviously there's no resetting in that one. But when you're doing it solo, like I'm doing now, you can reset as many times as you like for the stage. A novice time traditionally for this stage is under 1:30. I myself can get like a 1:20 or something like that, under 1:20. A 1:22 is actually quite good for me, even just like as not 100% driving. It's still quite good. Stage 4, as again mentioned, is at night. It's not pitch black, so you can see where you're going. It's not like you can't see anything at all. It is dark, but because of the weather and how the graphics look, you can actually see where you're going. Unfortunately, this was a problem that was on the PlayStation 1 version of CMR2, I believe, had a problem with its nighttime. It was quite dark on PS1, and the same on the first game as well. Nighttime stages were extremely dark, and you could barely see. Now, ideally, you don't want to be taking too much speed into this hairpin, because you can run wide, and it can cause damages to the car if you swing it out wide. Again, try not to wreck the car as best as you can. Go around the hairpin here. Again, second gear should usually do the trick. You don't want to be going any slower than that, because otherwise, if your car drops into first gear because of automatic gears, that's just automatic gears doing its job. Because unfortunately the AI, the computer changes the gears down for you, and sometimes it changes down the gears extremely early rather than really late like you want it to. Again, this happened as well. You want to be very careful, because again, as he said there, if you heard, there is rocks on the outside of the corner, so you want to be careful to not try and hit said rocks. That's ideal really in this situation. So going through here, you'll notice that there's a couple of sharp corners or very tight corners, and like I said, this is common in pretty much any rally game, especially with this game. There's not a lot to mention on that one, but yeah, again, be careful of the rocks on that last corner on that hairpin, because again, you hit those rocks, your car can either flip over, you can spin out, or you can take, well, worst case scenario, which can easily happen, is you whack it and take a lot of damage. And those rocks pack a punch because they are made of stone. So your car hits it, you're coming to a stop, or you're going to flip. If you hit it head on hard enough, you can cause your car to flip over. It's just the way it is, this game, unfortunately, with its physics. So as you can see, take it nice and easy. Try not to get involved with the ditch on the outside of the stage. And obviously, if you can, try not to hit the snowbanks because again, you'll lose speed. It can be useful. The snowbanks can be useful, however, if you're going very quick around a stage. Like, as in you're going around, you go, oh crap, I'm not going to make the corner, I'm not going to make it. You go wide, you go onto the snowbanks, and it'll slow you right down. It won't slow you down completely, but it will slow you down to allow you to get your gear changes sorted out, or allows you to sort your speed out and get back on track. And not worry about hitting the trees. Obviously, don't just rely on the snowbanks, because otherwise you'll end up just skidding and you'll lose more time than you actually realise. So, like, my best time on here is like as you can see, a 2:42 with this car. And if you have all the snowbanks, you can get, like, it'll be like 15 seconds slower than that. So ideally, the less time you spend, you know, the less time you spend going on the snowbanks and things like that, that basically means it's more time gained on the AI. Ideally, try and aim for under 3 minutes is what I'll say. For a first time, under 3 minutes for stage 4, that's a good time to aim for. As we move on to another super special stage. Again, this one's a bit more tricky. Now, fun fact, with this super special stage, there is 2 routes that you can take. You can either start on the left hand side or the right hand side. If you start on the right hand side, I believe it's slower by 2 seconds, so ideally you want to try and get spawned on the left. Again, it's completely random where the AI is going to spawn you, where the computer's going to spawn you. You can be put on the left or the right. Now for me, I'm going to get spawned on the left, which is the faster route. And for the most part, again, you're going to have this gearbox glitch I mentioned before, where it doesn't register your inputs. And ideally, most of this is actually wall riding, believe it or not. So you can do, from here, you can touch the wall on the outside there, if you're into steering all the way. But then here, you can actually rub against the wall. Now, unfortunately, what happened there was I actually hit the corner of the barrier, hence the reason why the car flipped over. But if you go a bit further past that, should we say go a bit further past that, you can actually wall ride the rail all the way around the corner and keep a lot of your speed. So I'm going to show this off here. So as you get down here, the track steers to the left hand side here, and you want to be ideally going around this thing here. As you can see, I'm pretty much wall riding. You can also do the same here as well, without, you know, losing too much speed. As you can tell, I've not lost too much. If you can, it's ideal if you flow from one side of the track to the other. And as you can see, I was in 5th gear for most of that. I kept most of my speed. The gearbox situation is actually helping me out here a ton, believe it or not. Yeah, so again, same for this. You want to hit this as hard as possible. Make sure you hit the back end of the car, because otherwise you can be in, as we put it, hot water with the car and not in a very good position. Make sure you slow down here, maybe 4th gear should do it, and across the line. And that is a 1:37. Now, ideally, a first time run would be, like a professional run, you're looking at about a 1:33-ish, 1:34 maybe, if possible maybe 1:35. But for a new player, probably like a 1:45 or 1:50. I mean, for the purposes of this, Backer finished at 1:56, and AI is like 1:55 to 1:58 sort of time. So anything below 1:50, I'd say even as far as try and get below 1:45 if you can. Anywhere within the like mid to late 1:40s should do the trick in my opinion. It should be fast enough to get to the end of Sweden, and and is a reasonably good time for the stage. As you can see, our final time was 11:52. My best time, I believe, was like a 10:30 or 10:20 or something like that. So quite a bit faster, but anything under 12 minutes, I'd say, like I've got there, is reasonably good for a new player, in my book. And that is Sweden done. I'm going to cut the 80% guide here for now, but feel free to join me back in part 2, where we will be running through the last 4 rallies of the game.